I couldn't believe my eyes when I walked into the kitchen and saw flames licking up the counter, swallowing the one thing that meant more to me than anything else in this world. My great-grandmother's journal, a 60-year-old, the family heirloom, the last piece of her I had left. It wasn't just a book. It was her words, her life, her love for our family written in her own hand, passed down through generations, and now it was turning to ash right in front of me. I screamed, lunging toward the fire, but it was too late. The pages were curling black, the leather cover melting into nothing. Denise, my daughter-in-law, stood there, her face pale, clutching a candle like it was her lifeline, stammering that she'd accidentally dropped it. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something in her eyes didn't sit right. A flicker of something cold, something calculated. That journal wasn't just paper to me. It was my history, my anchor, and now it was gone. And I was about to find out that this was no accident. Before I dive into this story, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and comment with where you're watching from. Your support means everything. My name is Grace. I'm 62 years old, and I live in a quiet little house in Reno, Nevada, where I thought I'd built a peaceful life with my son Lucas and his wife Denise. That journal was my treasure, kept safe in a wooden box on the kitchen table, where I'd read it, sometimes feeling my great-grandmother's strength in every word. She'd written it during the Great Depression, pouring her heart into those pages, stories of sacrifice, love, recipes, prayers, everything that held our family together. It was the one thing I'd planned to pass down to Lucas, and maybe one day to his kids if he ever had any. Denise knew how much it meant to me. I told her about it when she first moved in 3 years ago, after she and Lucas got married. She'd smiled, said it was sweet, but I could tell she didn't get it. She never got it. That day, I'd been out in the backyard, tending to my garden, when I smelled smoke. I dropped my trowel and ran inside, my heart pounding, thinking the house was on fire. But it wasn't the house. It was that journal burning on the counter, with Denise standing there, her hands shaking, muttering about a candle. I didn't buy it, not for a second. The candle she was holding wasn't even lit, and the wax on the counter didn't match the story she was trying to sell. I was too stunned to argue right then. I just stood there watching the last piece of my great-grandmother vanish, my throat tight with grief. Lucas came running in from the garage, yelling, "What's going on?" He saw the fire, grabbed a towel and smothered it, but it was too late. The journal was nothing but a pile of charred scraps. Denise kept apologizing, saying she'd been trying to set a mood with the candle, that it slipped from her hand. Lucas put his arm around her, telling me it was an accident, that we'd figure it out. But I couldn't look at her. I didn't say a word. I just walked out of the kitchen, my hands balled into fists, and locked myself in my bedroom. I wasn't crying. I was too angry for tears. Something was wrong, and I wasn't going to let it go. That night, I remembered the security camera Lucas had installed in the kitchen a few months back, after some packages got stolen from our porch. It was a cheap little thing, hidden in a corner, but it recorded everything. I didn't tell anyone. I just waited until Lucas and Denise were asleep, then pulled the footage up on my laptop. What I saw made my blood run cold. Denise wasn't holding a candle. She'd taken the journal out of its box, flipped through it like it was nothing, and then, clear as day, she grabbed a lighter from her pocket, flicked it on, and held it to the pages. She watched it catch fire, her face blank. No panic, no accident. Then she tossed it on the counter, stepped back and waited, like she was staging a scene. Right before I came in, she grabbed a candle from the dining room and held it up and faking her story. But the worst part, she was muttering under her breath, and the camera caught it. Stupid old trash, always obsessing over this thing. My stomach twisted. She'd done it on purpose. She'd burned my family's history because she was jealous, because she thought it was competition for my attention, for Lucas's love. I didn't sleep that night. I sat there, replaying the footage, feeling like my whole world had been turned upside down. Denise had always been a little distant, a little sharp with me, but I chalked it up to her being young, maybe insecure. She was 28, 10 years younger than Lucas, and she'd come into our family with a chip on her shoulder, always acting like she had to prove she was better than me. I tried to be kind to include her, but she'd roll her eyes when I talked about family traditions, scoff when I cooked recipes from the journal. Now, it all made sense. She didn't just dislike me. She hated what I stood for, what that journal represented, and she destroyed it to hurt me. The next morning, I didn't confront her. I didn't trust myself to stay calm, and I knew she'd lie her way out of it. Instead, I copied the footage onto a USB drive, got in my car, and drove straight to the Reno Police Department. I wasn't going to let this slide. That journal wasn't just sentimental, it was a piece of history, a cultural artifact, and in Nevada, destroying someone's property, especially something irreplaceable, could be a serious crime. I walked into the station, my hands steady, and told the officer at the desk everything Alders. I showed him the footage, explained what the journal meant, how it was the last link to my great-grandmother. He listened, took notes, and said they'd investigate. I left feeling lighter, like I'd taken the first step to reclaiming my power. When I got home, Lucas was waiting for me, his face pale. "Mom, where were you?" Denise said. "You stormed out without saying anything." I didn't tell him about the police yet. I just said I needed some air. Denise was in the living room, pretending to read a magazine, but I could feel her watching me. I didn't look at her. I went to my room, locked the door, and started researching. I found out that Nevada law could classify the journal as a heritage item, and intentional destruction could carry real consequences, fines, even jail time. I wasn't after revenge. I just wanted justice, wanted her to face what she'd done. A few days later, the police called. They'd reviewed the footage, talked to a prosecutor, and confirmed it was enough to press charges for destruction of property. They asked if I wanted to move forward. I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said. She needs to answer for this. They served Denise with papers that afternoon. Lucas was at work, but I was home when the officer knocked. Denise opened the door, saw the papers, and her face went white. "Grace, what did you do?" she hissed, turning to me. I didn't flinch. "What I had to," I said. She started yelling, calling me vindictive, saying I was tearing the family apart. I didn't argue. I just walked away. The truth was on that camera, and soon it'd be in a courtroom. Lucas came home that night, confused and angry. "Mom, why didn't you tell me you were going to the police? She's my wife." I sat him down, showed him the footage. His face changed as he watched shock, then disbelief, then something like betrayal. "She lied to me," he whispered. I nodded. "She didn't just lie, Lucas. She destroyed something irreplaceable. She wanted to hurt me, hurt us." He didn't say much after that, just went to their bedroom and closed the door. I heard them arguing, her voice loud, his low and steady. I didn't eavesdrop. I didn't need to. The truth was out, and it was going to change everything. The case moved fast. The prosecutor took it seriously, especially after I brought in letters from family members, confirming the journal's value, not monetary, but cultural, emotional. It was one of a kind, and Denise had known exactly what she was doing. In court, she tried to stick to her candle story, but the footage was damning. The judge didn't buy her act. She was found guilty of intentional destruction of a heritage item, fined $5,000, and ordered to pay restitution for the journal's estimated value, another $2,000. But the real victory wasn't the money. It was the restraining order I requested and got. Denise was barred from contacting me, from coming near my home, from ever being part of my life again. Lucas didn't fight it. He just looked at her, shook his head, and walked out of the courtroom with me. That was 6 months ago. Lucas moved out, filed for divorce, and now lives in an apartment across town. He's trying to rebuild to make sense of the woman he thought he loved. I don't know if he'll ever forgive her, but I know he's done protecting her. As for me, I'm still grieving the journal, but I feel stronger, like I honored my great-grandmother by fighting for her legacy. Denise is gone, and I'm rebuilding too, one day at a time. The weeks after the court case were like walking through a fog. Everything felt heavy, quiet, but charged with this unspoken tension that hung over the house. Lucas was barely around, spending most of his time at work or crashing at a friend's place, and when he was home, he'd avoid my eyes like he was carrying the weight of Denise's betrayal on his shoulders. I didn't push him to talk. I knew he was hurting, maybe even more than me, because he'd trusted her, built a life with her, and now it was all crumbling. The restraining order kept Denise away, but her presence lingered like a ghost in the things she'd left behind, the lies she'd told, the damage she'd done. I was trying to move forward, but every time I walked into the kitchen, I saw that journal burning, and it lit a fire in me all over again. Not just anger, but this fierce need to protect what was left of my family. I started sorting through the house, boxing up anything that reminded me of her. Clothes she'd left in the guest room, a scarf hanging on the coat rack, even the coffee mugs she'd bought with those stupid inspirational quotes. I didn't throw them out. I donated them, dropped them off at a thrift store across town, because I didn't want her energy anywhere near me. Lucas didn't say anything when he saw the boxes, just helped me load them into my car. "You sure about this, Mom?" he asked, once his voice low. I nodded. "It's not about erasing her, Lucas. It's about reclaiming our space." He didn't argue, just grabbed another box and carried it out. But the real challenge wasn't the stuff, it was the family. Word about the court case spread fast, and not everyone took my side. My sister Ellen, who lives in Carson City, called me up a week after the verdict, her voice sharp. "Grace, did you have to take it that far? She's family, not some criminal." I gripped the phone, trying to keep my cool. "Ellen, she burned our great-grandmother's journal. On purpose. You think I should have let that go?" She sighed like I was being dramatic. "I'm just saying families fight. You could have worked it out." I didn't argue back. I just told her I had to go and hung up. That call stung, because Ellen had read the journal too, knew what it meant. If she couldn't understand, who would? Others were more supportive. My cousin Mark, who'd written one of the letters for the court, drove up from Vegas to check on me. He brought a bottle of wine, sat at my kitchen table, and listened as I poured out everything. The shock, the betrayal, the way Denise's face looked in that footage, cold and deliberate. "You did the right thing, Grace," he said, pouring me a glass. "She didn't just burn a book. She tried to burn your history. That's not something you forgive." His words were like a lifeline, reminding me I wasn't crazy for fighting back. We talked late into the night, and when he left, I felt a little less alone. Lucas, though, was struggling. He didn't talk about Denise much, but I could see it in the way he moved slower, like he was carrying something heavy. One night, about a month after the trial, he came home late, sat down at the kitchen table, and just stared at the spot where the journal used to be. I made him a cup of coffee, sat across from him, and waited. Finally, he spoke. "I keep thinking about what she said in court, about it being an accident. I wanted to believe her, Mom." Even after the video, his voice cracked, and I reached for his hand. "You loved her, Lucas. That's not your fault. She's the one who lied." He nodded, but his eyes were distant. "I just don't know how I missed it. How I didn't see who she really was." I didn't have an answer for that. I'd missed it too at first. Denise had been charming when she wanted to be all smiles and compliments, when she and Lucas started dating. But there were signs, little things I'd brushed off. The way she'd interrupt me when I talked about family history, the snide comments about old-fashioned traditions, the time she forgot to invite me to their engagement dinner. I thought she was just adjusting, but now I saw it for what it was. Resentment? She didn't want to be part of our family. She wanted to replace it, to make Lucas hers and hers alone. The journal was just the final straw, the thing she couldn't stand because it tied us together in a way she'd never understand. The divorce papers came next. Lucas hired a lawyer, a quiet guy from downtown Reno, who didn't sugarcoat things. "She's not contesting it," the lawyer told him over the phone. "But she's asking for half the savings." Lucas's jaw tightened when he heard that. "She's not getting a dime," he said, his voice hard. I stayed out of it, let him handle it, but I was proud of him for standing his ground. Denise had already taken enough. The divorce wasn't final yet, but it was moving forward, and with every step, Lucas seemed to come back to himself a little more. Meanwhile, I was dealing with the fallout in my own way. The restraining order gave me peace of mind, but it didn't erase the loss. I started reaching out to family, asking if anyone had copies of the journal's pages, maybe notes or photos. My aunt in California had a few Polaroids of the journal open on her table from years ago, and she sent them to me. They weren't much, just a glimpse of my great-grandmother's handwriting, but they were something. I printed them out, framed them, and hung them in my bedroom. It wasn't the same, but it was a start. Then came the rumors. Someone, probably, Denise, had been talking, spreading stories that I'd overreacted, that I'd ruined her life over a silly book. I heard it from a neighbor, who'd heard it from a friend, who'd seen it on social media. I didn't have a Facebook account, didn't want one, but Lucas showed me the posts. Denise hadn't named me directly, but it was clear who she was talking about. Some people cling to the past so hard, they'll destroy a family over it, she'd written. The comments were mixed. Some people called her out. Others piled on, saying I was petty, vindictive. It hurt, but I didn't respond. I'd already fought my battle in court. I wasn't going to fight it online. Instead, I focused on rebuilding. I started a project, something to honor the journal. I reached out to every family member I could think of, asking for stories about my great-grandmother recipes. She'd passed down anything they remembered. I typed them up, printed them, and started a new book. Not a replacement, but a way to keep her spirit alive. Lucas helped scanning old photos, adding his own memories of the stories I told him. It was slow, painful work, but it gave me purpose, something to hold on to. By the end of those first few months, I was starting to feel like myself again. The house was quieter without Denise, but it was a good quiet, a clean quiet. Lucas was coming around more, talking more, even laughing a little. The divorce was moving forward. The rumors were fading, and I had my family stories in my hands again. But I knew this wasn't the end. Denise wasn't the type to just disappear, and I had a feeling she'd find a way to stir up trouble again. I was ready for it. I'd fought for my family once, and I'd do it again. Just when I thought I'd found some peace, Denise came crashing back into my life. Not in person, thank God, because of the restraining order, but through a letter that showed up in my mailbox one crisp October morning, about 8 months after the trial. It was typed no signature, but I knew it was her the second I read. The first line, "You think you won, but you're the one who's lost everything." My hands shook as I read the rest: accusations that I'd turned Lucas against her, that I'd poisoned the family, that I was a bitter old woman who couldn't let go of a worthless book. The letter wasn't just angry. It was vicious, every word designed to cut deep. I stood there in my driveway, the Nevada sun beating down, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. She wasn't done with me, and this was her way of proving it. I didn't tell Lucas right away. He was finally starting to move on, going to therapy, even talking about dating again. The divorce was nearly finalized, and he'd been smiling more, like the old Lucas was coming back. I didn't want to drag him back into Denise's mess, but I also knew I couldn't ignore this. I took the letter to the police, showed it to the same officer who'd handled the journal case. He frowned, turned it over in his hands. "It's not a direct threat," he said, "but it's close. And it violates the restraining order's no-contact rule." He made a copy, said they'd look into it, maybe issue a warning. I left the station feeling uneasy, like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sure enough, it did. A week later, Lucas came home from work, his face tight. "Mom, you need to see this," he said, pulling out his phone. He showed me an email Denise had sent him, not from her usual account, but a new one, probably to get around the restraining order. It was long, rambling, full of the same venom as my letter, but this time, she was begging him to come back to her, saying I'd manipulated him, that I'd stolen his future. She even mentioned the journal, claiming she'd only burned it to free him from my obsession. Lucas was furious, his hands clenched as he read it aloud. "She's delusional," he said. "She thinks she can rewrite what happened." I nodded, but inside I was scared, not of Denise, but of what she might do next. We reported the email to the police, and they confirmed it was another violation. They tracked her down. She was living in a cheap apartment in Sparks, just outside Reno, and served her with a warning. If she contacted us again, she'd face jail time. That should have been the end of it, but Denise wasn't the type to back down. A few days later, I got a call from my cousin Mark, the one who'd supported me after the trial. "Grace, you need to know something," he said, his voice low. "Denise has been calling around, talking to family, trying to turn people against you." I felt my stomach drop. "What's she saying?" I asked. Mark hesitated. "She's saying you faked the security footage that you set her up to get her out of Lucas's life." I couldn't believe it. Faking the footage. That was a new low even for her. But the worst part was, some people were listening. My sister Ellen, who'd already questioned me after the trial, was one of them. Mark said Denise had called her crying, spinning this story about how I'd always hated her, how I'd doctored the video to make her look guilty. Ellen didn't fully buy it, but she was confused, asking Mark if there was another side to the story. I was livid. I'd fought tooth and nail to protect my family's legacy, and now Denise was out there twisting the truth, trying to rewrite history. I called Ellen that night, didn't even wait to calm down. "You're listening to her," I said, my voice shaking. "After everything I showed you, after the court case, you're letting her get in your head." Ellen tried to backtrack, saying she just wanted to understand, but I wasn't having it. "There's nothing to understand, Ellen. She burned our great-grandmother's journal. She lied. She got caught. And now she's trying to save face by dragging me down." Ellen was quiet for a long time, then said, "I'm sorry, Grace. I didn't mean to upset you." We hung up, but I knew things weren't right between us. Denise was driving a wedge, and it was working. Lucas, meanwhile, was done playing nice. He went to his lawyer, pushed to speed up the divorce, and asked about pressing charges for the restraining order violations. The lawyer said they had a strong case, especially with the letter and email. "She's digging her own grave," he told Lucas. "Keep documenting everything." So we did. Every call, every rumor, every time someone mentioned Denise's name, we wrote it down. It felt like preparing for war, but I wasn't going to let her tear my family apart again. Then came the final blow. One of my neighbors, a sweet older woman named Clara, stopped by with a worried look. "Grace, I saw something odd last night," she said. "There was a car parked across the street, just sitting there for hours. I think it was Denise." My heart sank. I thanked. Clara told her to call me if she saw it again, and went straight to the police. They checked the street cameras. Sure enough, it was Denise's car, parked a block away, close enough to watch the house, but far enough to avoid the restraining order's boundary. It was a violation, plain and simple, and this time, the police didn't hesitate. They arrested her for stalking and violating the restraining order. The arrest was a turning point. Denise was released on bail, but the judge was clear: one more violation, and she'd be locked up for good. The divorce was finalized a week later, and Lucas got everything he'd asked, for no alimony, no split savings, just a clean break. Denise didn't show up to the final hearing. Her lawyer said she'd left town. I didn't believe it, but I didn't care. As long as she was out of our lives, I could breathe again. I kept working on the new family book, adding more stories, more photos. It was growing page by page, and every word felt like a victory. Lucas started helping more, even writing down his own memories of the journal things I'd read to him when he was a kid. It was healing us slowly, bringing us closer. The rumors faded. Ellen apologized, and the family started coming back together. But I never let my guard down. Denise had shown me what she was capable of, and I knew she wasn't done. Not yet. A year after the trial, I thought I'd finally found some kind of normal. The house was mine again, filled with the sounds of my life. Music on the radio, Lucas's laughter when he'd come over for dinner, the clatter of dishes as I cooked recipes from the new family book. The restraining order was still in place. Denise was supposedly gone, and Lucas was moving on, dating a kind woman named Sarah, who didn't roll her eyes at family traditions. But just when I let myself relax, Denise came back, not with a letter or a car parked down the street, but with something worse, a lawsuit. She was suing me for emotional distress, claiming I defamed her by taking her to court over the journal and ruining her reputation. When I got the papers, I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe her nerve. She'd burned my family's history, lied about it, stalked us, and now she was playing the victim. I called my lawyer a sharp woman named Carla, who'd helped with the restraining order. She read the lawsuit, snorted, and said, "This is a joke, Grace. She's got no case, but we'll bury her anyway." I trusted Carla, but I was still shaken. The lawsuit wasn't about winning. It was about dragging me back into Denise's chaos, making me relive the pain of the journal, the trial, all of it. Lucas was furious when I told him. "She's not getting away with this," he said, his voice low and hard. "I'll testify, Mom. Whatever you need." I nodded, grateful for him, but I was tired. I just wanted it to be over. The lawsuit forced me to dig up everything: the security footage, the police reports, the court records from the journal case. Carla said, we needed to prove Denise's pattern of behavior, show the judge she was the aggressor, not me. So, I went through it all. Every painful detail. The moment I saw the journal burning, the cold look on Denise's face, in the video, the letter she sent, the email to Lucas, the night she parked outside my house. It was like reliving a nightmare. But I did it because I had to. I wasn't going to let her rewrite the story. The court date was set for 3 months later in a small Reno courtroom. I spent those months preparing, meeting with Carla, gathering witnesses. Lucas was ready to speak. So was Mark, and even Clara, the neighbor who'd seen Denise's car. I also reached out to family members who'd heard Denise's rumors, asking them to write statements about what she'd said. Most of them came through, including Ellen, who'd finally seen Denise for what she was. "I was wrong, Grace," she told me over the phone. "I should have trusted you." I forgave her, but I didn't forget how easily she doubted me. Trust is hard to rebuild once it's broken. Denise's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim, saying I'd targeted her from the start, that I'd exaggerated the journal's value to punish her. It was the same story she'd been spinning to the family, but it fell apart under scrutiny. Carla showed the security footage, played Denise's own words, "stupid old trash," and presented the restraining order violations. Lucas took the stand, his voice steady, as he described how Denise had lied to him, how her actions had torn their marriage apart. "She wasn't distressed," he said, looking at the judge. "She was vindictive. She wanted to hurt my mom, and she did." Clara's testimony sealed it. She described the car parked across the street, the way it sat there for hours, the license plate that matched Denise's answers. "I've known Grace for years," Clara said. "She's not the one causing trouble." Denise's lawyer tried to argue that it wasn't her car, that Clara was mistaken, but the street camera footage backed her up. The judge's face was unreadable, but I could tell he wasn't buying Denise's story. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple. I told the judge what the journal meant, not just to me, but to my family, to our history. I described the moment I saw it, burning, the betrayal of finding out it was no accident, the fear of knowing Denise wouldn't stop. I didn't defame her. I said, my voice calm but firm. I told the truth. She's the one who's been lying to everyone for years. Denise was there, sitting across the courtroom, staring at the floor. She didn't look at me, not once. The judge didn't take long to decide. He dismissed the lawsuit, called it frivolous, and ordered Denise to pay my legal fees, $3,000. He also extended the restraining order for another 2 years, warning her that any further contact would mean jail. Carla squeezed my hand as we left the courtroom, a small smile on her face. "She's done, Grace. You're free." I nodded, but I didn't feel free. Not yet. I felt like I'd been fighting for years and I was exhausted. Lucas took me out to dinner that night, just the two of us, at a little Italian place we used to go to when he was a kid. He raised his glass of wine, his eyes soft. "To you, Mom." "For not giving up?" I clinked my glass against his, managed a smile. "To us," I said. "For surviving." We talked about the future, his new girlfriend Sarah, the family book, maybe a trip to California, to visit Aunt Ellen. For the first time in a long time, I felt hope, like the worst was finally behind us. But Denise had one last trick. A week after the lawsuit was thrown out, I got a package in the mail. No return address, just a small box wrapped in brown paper. Inside was a cheap notebook, filled with handwritten pages that looked like a mockery of my great-grandmother's journal. Fake recipes, made-up stories, all in Denise's handwriting. Taped to the last page was a note. Here's your precious history. Happy now. I didn't scream. I took the box to the police, added it to the file, and let them handle it. They couldn't prove it was her, not without a postmark or fingerprints, but it didn't matter. I knew it was her, and I knew it was her last desperate attempt to hurt me. I burned the notebook in my backyard, watched the flames, eat her words, and felt nothing but relief. 2 years after the journal burned, I'm sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where it all happened, but it feels different now, lighter like the air's been cleared. The new family book is on the table thicker than ever, filled with stories, recipes, photos, and memories from everyone who's contributed. It's not the original, never will be, but it's something better, a living thing growing with every new page. Lucas is doing better than ever, engaged to Sarah, planning a small wedding next spring. Denise is gone, really gone this time. No letters, no lawsuits, no cars in the night. The restraining order's still in place, and I don't think she'll risk coming back. I've won not just in court, but in life. I've got my family, my strength, and my great-grandmother's legacy stronger than ever. The journey wasn't easy. After the lawsuit, I kept expecting Denise to pop up again to try one last time to tear us down. But she didn't. Maybe the judge's warning finally sank in. Or maybe she just ran out of steam. Either way, I stopped looking over my shoulder. I started living again. Really living. I joined a book club, started gardening again, even took a trip to California with Lucas and Sarah to visit family. Everywhere we went, I brought the new book, shared the stories, let people add their own. It was like my great-grandmother was with us, her spirit woven into every word. Lucas and Sarah are building something real. She's nothing like Denise. Kind, grounded, respects our history. When Lucas told me he was proposing, he showed me the ring, a simple band with a small diamond. "I want to do it right this time, Mom," he said. I hugged him, told him I was proud. Sarah loves the family book, even asked if she could add a recipe her grandmother taught her. I said yes, of course. That's what the book's for, bringing us together, keeping the past alive while making room for the future. The family's healed mostly. Ellen and I are talking again, though it's not the same. She's apologized, come to visit, even added a story to the book. Other relatives who doubted me have come around, some with apologies, some just with silence, and I'm okay with that. I don't need everyone to understand. I just need my family to be whole. Mark's still my rock, calling every week, checking in. He's planning a big family reunion next summer. Wants me to bring the book, share it with everyone. I'm already looking forward to it. As for me, I'm stronger than I ever thought I could be. Losing the journal was like losing a piece of my soul, but fighting for it for my family gave me something back. I learned I'm not just a mother, a grandmother, a keeper of stories. I'm a fighter, someone who doesn't back down when it matters. I still miss the journal, always will, but I've found peace in what I've built. The new book is proof of that. Proof that Denise didn't win, that she couldn't break us. Sometimes late at night, I'll sit with the book, read a story or two, and feel my great-grandmother's presence. I'll think about everything we went through, the fire, the lies, the lawsuits, the fear, and I'll smile because we came out on the other side. I don't know where Denise is now, and I don't care. She's a shadow, a memory that fades a little more every day. My family, my stories, my life, they're the light, and they're brighter than ever. So here I am 2 years later, telling you this story, not because it's over, but because it's a beginning. A new chapter written by all of us, for all of us. And no one, not Denise, not anyone can take that away. If this story hit, you check out the next one on your screen. Click subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming. Thanks for being here.